Hello, everybody. This is the Cluster Addons call. Today is Tuesday, the 28th of April. Do we have anyone who's entirely new to the call and wants to quickly introduce themselves? All right. Yeah, just checked the action items from last meeting. Last week we already, or 2 weeks ago, we already talked about summer of code and just said that it was with CNCF. They
Yes,
were
that's
supposed
right.
to look into something.
Yes, I think there's some sort of weird or complicated, to my mind, matching system where CNCF, as the sort of sponsoring org, has to say how many projects they want slots for, and then the Google Summer of Code program tells them you can have a different or a potentially different number, and then I guess CNCF says, all right, given we have N slots, we want to do these projects, and then it finally comes to us as the sort of mentors. And obviously we can provide input, but we did provide some of that input to Ihor, who's I think the main person driving it, but it's not yet really with us. We were able to read the proposals, I guess, but we're not actually able to do very much with them. So there's not a lot we should be doing yet.
Okay, cool.
Click on want to mentor.
That is the only thing we can do. We can click on want to mentor, and yes, that's what we can do. Yes, but we can't click on don't want to mentor. So it's a little like I don't know that there's any visible difference between. The only thing we can do is +1. I don't think there's any -1 or 0 distinction.
Yeah, I think my advice would be to pick the one you like best and click on it.
I have done that, I think, but yes, thank you. Yeah, if there are others as well, then that was a good thing to do. But yeah, it's. I think other organizations have, for example, exported spreadsheets and constructed their own voting schemes externally. CNCF has not done that, to my knowledge.
Sorry, I was typing notes. So we don't need to do anything here. Shall I ask Ihor again, or are we good for now?
I think we're okay for now. I don't think I got a next step from Ihor. We can always follow up with him and ask him what the next step is. Okay,
cool. Yeah, and the second agenda item that's not on the agenda yet was the cluster add-ons summary for the SIG cluster lifecycle call. And
yeah, I brought that up. Lee, do you want to talk about this? I know that like Tim Sinclair has asked us a bunch of times or a couple of times to ask to report to the broader SIG cluster lifecycle community on sort of what we're working on here. And I know you were going to sort of take a lead on some sort of report.
Yes, they want that to be next week, and I haven't thought about it since we talked about it last week. We did last month put together an outline of all of the work streams that everyone from the different groups here has been contributing in add-ons. The next thing that we wanted to look at was putting a presentation together. I said I was going to do this a while back and then didn't do it. Does that still sound like a reasonable action item to work towards for next week's call? Tim also said that he was going to schedule something, but I haven't actually got any correspondence from him on that. I can ping him as well for timing.
To me, it sounds like a great thing to do, and I think my suggestion would be to do the skeleton and then farm out the work, as it were. Like put together the outline you want, and then say like assign me to do whatever slides you want, and assign other people to do, you know, like their areas.
Yeah. And then we can make a concerted effort to make sure. So it sounded like Tim was actually going to try and schedule a separate call for this, because it will probably eat an entire SIG meeting.
Yes, and it might also be that if we have a deck that or some form of doc, a deck or doc that there's less need for a poll. Like just the visibility is, I think, the end goal, right?
Right, because we can post that as well in the Google group and that kind of thing.
Yes.
For the main SIG to see on all the email updates. Sure. Well, we already got a great start on the outline, so I will start translating that into some slides and then ask for edits.
Do you have the document up somewhere already?
It is inside of our meeting notes several weeks ago. So yeah, Tim's been asking for this for a little bit now, but it's been quite crazy. Let's turn that on. I am now looking for the DM or the message that Tim posted about scheduling inside of the Cluster Lifecycle channel. You mentioned something regarding it. Cannot locate it at the moment. I'm just going to post inside of SIG Cluster Lifecycle. Or, yeah, that's probably the best place to do that. And I'll ask Tim to clarify if he sent anything out that I missed.
Okay. Do we have any other agenda items? Sounds like this was the quickest ever cluster
No,
add-ons
I can actually suggest a topic. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I just thought it may be somewhat relevant to mention because we do come back to the topic of templating every now and again. And I don't know what's the view that this group broadly accepts at present, aside from, you know, we shouldn't single out on a particular templating solution or, you know, force use of certain tools on users or anything of that sort. I don't know if there is any thoughts on what's our recommendation on best practice. Do we have one? Sounds like no. Or...
I mean, I think we generally are trying to not. We're generally trying to take more of a case by case basis, right? To like like I think we think that some places where we have historically used templating are better done using like YAML transforms, whether directly or in an operator.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that we know that doesn't encompass everything. I think certainly my work on when I'm thinking about operators, I'm trying to like explore the limits of that approach.
So yeah, I just spent a little bit of time looking into Q and had some findings that I'd be happy to share, possibly offline, if anybody is interested.
I would certainly look at that if you posted your thoughts in the Cluster Addons channel. You could also just
yeah.
if you want to talk about them.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. Well, generally, like there's a lot one can do with Q. So I've been trying to solve one particular problem and realized maybe a simple, somewhat opinionated wrapper on top of Q is actually of some interest to those who may be interested to use Q. I thought Q is kind of cool, and it's nice that it integrates well as a Go library. So you could have your Q data scripts, if you like, along with your Go programs, and those seem kind of natural within Go language somewhat. I mean, you can convert directly back from Q types into Go types and such things, right? I had a brief look at, I forget, is it Starlark or Skylark now? The Python-based interpreter, Python-esque interpreter that is now actually integrated with Customize, which was kind of curious. The thing about that is that you kind of have to, whatever you create in your Starlark program, you have to convert back to your Go types and such things, and you can't really just go straight to JSON from there. So yeah, I found that a little bit of a challenge, and I learned that with Q you can actually evaluate your Q program and get back JSON. And Q has some interesting integrations with Kubernetes types as well.
Wow, the Starlark folder in the KYAML library is alarming news to me. That is really interesting.
Yeah, I've tweeted about that earlier. I think what was it sort of occurred to me naturally to ask whether something like that would be in scope for Customize in the early days of Customize, and that issue was closed, and now it's been well, it hadn't been reopened, but for the just for the record, I sort of referenced that was the PR that added Starlark support. Anyway, it's interesting because I mean I thought of using Customize for a thing recently, and I found it kind of hard that there's only certain things that you can do. Like for example, you can insert a name prefix, but you can't override the name as a whole. So I have to have some base name, and what if I don't have one? What if I just have like a basic name for everything everywhere, right? And few other things, and it seems like being able to actually call a something like a Python script on your configuration is the easiest answer to enabling arbitrary transforms.
That is quite alarming to me that Customize has support for execing out to a Python tool.
Well,
it's not. It's a Go library. It's not an exec.
There's a Go implementation of Starlark.
It is really. Yeah, what I'm talking about Starlark, I'm referring to the Go implementation.
I didn't know that there was a Go implementation of that.
Justin,
yeah, I just want to say, like, something I've learned about Customize is, like, one of the things that I think they've been working on for, I guess, one of the big things they've been working for the past year is exactly the feedback you gave. And so things like name prefix are actually defined now as, under the covers, as external, as transform, that everything is a transform, and in theory, everything is pluggable. And hold on a minute. And sorry, and
Well, you're much more
And
used to that than some of some other people. Sorry, just the domestic interruptions.
yes, sorry. And so the uh, the the plugins today can only be written in as binaries in a magic path, or as I think Go plugin libraries. And I'm guessing, but I don't know, that this Starlark is intended to be a third and more portable way of implementing them. So you could implement, so Customize already has the way that you could implement your name replace transform.
Okay.
Today you'd have to write essentially a binary and compile it. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
guessing that what they're doing is they're saying, well, you could also write one in Starlark.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That makes Customize so much more useful. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, that is quite interesting. Yeah, but I mean, I had some interesting findings with Q as well, because my use case would be to embed something in a CLI that should be fairly small, and I don't want to introduce something that is obviously foreign. My natural preference would fall with something like TypeScript otherwise. But anyway, so well, yeah, I'm happy to share a few things later once I have some code that actually is presentable. Yeah.
And to clarify, the Q that you're referring to is the QLang,
Yeah, that's
cuelang.org.
right.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Sounds like a letter, but is actually a word.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. It's sort of like a data-oriented sort of a language, right? It's a bit like JSON, but with slightly more how to put it, a simpler syntax, let's say, and the native implementation, the kind of the canonical implementation is in Go. And it's easily callable as a Go library, and I've been able to do a couple of things, and yeah, and I mean, like one thing I found is that once you write a program like that, fundamentally in Q you end up returning all the data that you have. Some of this data may be private, may be public, and you kind of need to select the data that you wanted. So I'm just putting together something that would have like use well-known keys, and you just have like this is the thing I'm returning, and this is the thing that I want to write to a file, sort of thing.
You're thinking about this from a CLI context or from a pod?
This is more like take a template and pass in some parameters and write out different files with different parameters, sort of use case. And yeah, but then later on, yeah, I'm looking into this as a sort of CLI, runtime configuration rendering based on whatever parameters you specified. And you could have like if statements and for loops in your in your Q templates, let's say. Yeah.
I could certainly see that even outside of the Go world, because it's nice that it is a library you can use. But you could also set up a init container and then have a config volume, that kind of thing.
Yeah, or check it into a repo or something like that.
Pre-process it. You could do all sorts of pipeline type things in the same way that JSONet is available to do that kind of thing.
But yeah, it's
JSONet is quite slow.
So.
Sorry. Coming back up to the Addons project, it seems to me we're never going to win a debate on this subject. There's just too many people have too many opinions. So as the Addons project either has to say we allow everything, or we picked one, enjoy.
Certainly, yeah. I just said it out to share something that could be of interest of.
Yeah, sure, it's interesting. I just want to kind of make my position about we're never going to get agreement.
Yeah, the most interesting part about how this fits into the total overview of all the work streams is that is in the packaging and application bit. And by application, I mean like kubectl apply kind of workflow. And we've jumped on to like, okay, well, kubectl kind of supports the customized applier in a way, and then it has these other arbitrary ways to source things that feel like packages, like the HTTP source. Extending kubectl isn't really our current mission, right? So using what's already in there is sensible, despite the caveats and arguments that are around that area. But we can build things directly around what is currently supported in kubectl, for which there are a couple mechanisms. And then we have the proposal for supporting OCI package. So that's from inspired by a lot of the work in the OLM ecosystem. The OLM ecosystem also has an expansion idea that they're working on in their API, whereby the thing that's contained in the package also knows how to expand the package. So that could be with something like QJSONet or Tanka or all these other tools. And
so I just Googled OLM ecosystem, and it's a cave-dwelling vertebrate.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, I just was talking about the operator lifecycle manager and operator.
Is it K with K, right?
It's like a little sneaky.
Cave
It's got legs, so it's like a lizard.
Hmm.
It's the unofficial mascot. Coincidence. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes me want to start an open source project, right? Cave Dweller with a K could be an add-ons tool. So
you could get the O'Reilly book cover.
Mm-hmm. But yes, as far as opinions, and then the other work that's sort of related is in Cluster API. They're working in Cluster Cuddle, and Cluster Cuddle has a proposal that's open right now where they would like to have a binary expansion mechanism. So they want to be able to exec. It seems like right now it's either going to be an exec of something on the path or inside of a container through a host supported container runtime to produce a render of some package. And we have not really collaborated with them on this, but it's going in a similar direction. So,
this may be a good time to bring up that bundle cap is still available for review, and that this is what this is attempting to address, is to define just a generic packaging format for essentially stuff that results in YAML that you can then associate with various tools that know how to unpack them.
Yeah, this certainly seems to be over and over again the problem that is difficult to solve because you have to make everyone happy, and it's certainly this problem space right now where this is the friction point. People are building their own solutions to get real work done, and we don't have an upstream, like, blessed set of solutions yet that make people happy. So solving this problem is a huge mission of the Addons group, in my perspective. And yeah, the bundle cap has quite a lot of good detail in there about how to address the packaging portion of it. Something we don't really ever ask on this call is anybody working on something that they need help with? Great. Well, we might be able to convene. Thanks for bringing up the notes about Q, Ilya. The discussion of the package expansion thing is definitely a very interesting topic.
I'm gonna post the link to a repo shortly. It's actually quite simple, but yeah.
Yeah, if you would just pop that in cluster add-ons, I'll definitely give it a build and read.
I've not got a README yet.
Yeah. So read the code. All right. Great. Well, if no one has anything else to bring up, then we can probably convene the call. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, let's do it. See you in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.